Welcome back, and I'm sure this was an issue you guys talked about at the water cooler at work or at the dinner table. Jason Collins, he became a household name by making major news by coming out as the first openly gay male team athlete still active. Now the question is, how is the public reacting? And Andrew, I think the short answer is surprisingly well.
Yeah, and this despite the fact that we had talked about it on this panel for months, if not years. How would the public react when an active player in a team sport came out? So far, everybody seems to be taking it pretty well.
Jason Collins is a powerhouse on the court, a 7-foot, 255-pound NBA center who's made it to the playoffs 9 times. Now he's shattered one of the final barriers in Major League sports, telling Sports Illustrated, quote, "I'm a 34-year-old NBA center, I'm black, and I'm gay." In an exclusive interview with Good Morning America's George Stephanopoulos, Collins says it's mind-boggling that he's the first active player in pro team sports to come out as gay.
You're sort of waiting around for somebody else to, raise their hand, and I'm ready to raise my hand, but you still look around like, okay, come on, guys.
Reaction from around the NBA has been mostly supportive. Lakers star Kobe Bryant tweeted he's proud of Collins, quote, "Don't suffocate who you are because of the ignorance of others."
He's always been a great guy. He's always been a great teammate.
He's a good guy, and I'm certainly praying for him.
But not everyone in pro sports embraced Collins' news. Mike Wallace of the Miami Dolphins tweeted that he doesn't understand, quote, "All these beautiful women in the world and guys want to mess with other guys." That post was later removed.
He plays another year. That's going to be a defining moment in the NBA or in professional sports, because now you're going to have an openly gay man in a male-dominated locker room.
And President Obama even chimed in about Jason Collins during his press conference today.
I'll say something about Jason Collins. I had a chance to talk to him yesterday. He seems like a terrific young man, and I told him I couldn't be prouder of him.
That endorsement aside, Collins is still a free agent right now. He says he wants to play next season if a team will sign him, and that all the attention will only motivate him to work harder. Rich?
Thanks, Andrew. Now, earlier today, I spoke with Cyd Ziegler. He's the president and co-founder of OutSports, the world's leading gay sports publication. Now, Cyd's broken a lot of national stories. Many of you may remember, most notably the coming out of former NBA player John Amichu came out after his playing days were over. Now, he told us how Collins' coming out meant the world to him. I read your story, the meaning of Jason Collins coming out, and right in the first sentence, you said, "I admit it, I cried Monday when the announcement went out," and you did so a few times. Tell everybody why Monday was so important.
We at OutSports have been working on gay sports issues for 14 years, and this is something that we've been told many times was impossible, that a gay athlete could not be active in one of the big pro sports. Some people have even argued that it's impossible to be gay and be an athlete. So to have somebody like Jason Collins, who is a big, tough basketball player, who's been a fantastic teammate, successful on the court, and so eloquently write about his experience and why he was coming out, really embrace his place in history, it was moving.
Almost universally said the reaction from his peers in the NBA has been welcoming, and they couldn't put in stronger terms that he has a place in the league, from the Kobe Bryants to the Dwayne Wades to the Shaq O'Neals. But then it still begs the question, why is he still the first one to ever do this?
Because no one would listen to me. Because I've said for years, and so has my business partner, Jim Basinski, this is going to be just okay. We've told the stories of hundreds of athletes in Tennessee and Nebraska, Maine, California, in basketball, baseball, football, hockey, in high school and college, and every single one of them tells the same experience. That even when they heard homophobia in the locker room, and even in deeply religious locker rooms, when they came out of the closet, their teammates embraced them. And for some reason, people thought that pro sports would be completely different, and that these professional people would somehow have a problem with it where no one else did. So it's just, people wouldn't listen to us. I don't know what to tell you. It's this fear of the unknown, because nobody did it before. I mean, Jason Collins alluded to that. He was waiting for somebody to do it first. Nobody did, so he did it himself.
So far, I've heard just the stray remarks on the other side from a sportscaster or for Broussard over at ESPN or for a wide receiver for the Dolphins, and immediately there was a smackdown from their employers. But my question is, if there is intolerance, do you think it's more likely to come from the locker room, from the stands, from the sponsors? Where, if there is one bastion that's not ready for this, where do you think it's most likely to come from?
It's an impossible question to answer because they're all ready. And, there is going to be whispers of intolerance in all of those places. People in the media, fans, players, you're going to have a small minority say they're not okay with this. But what I always ask the fans is, if your favorite player on your favorite team came out, would you really have a problem with it? Well, but an athlete, Mike Wallace, the Dolphins, his quarterback came out of the closet. Would he really have a problem with it? Of course not. So when it comes down to the individual level, people's attitudes change.
I'm curious, Cyd. You must know a lot of closeted athletes in pro sports right now. I had heard as many as 4 NFL players, current players, were going to come out as a group here for the last month, and it hasn't happened. Do you think that by Mr. Collins coming out like he did, the floodgates open here, or do you think people are going to do a wait and see?
More doors started to open on Monday for sure, and I don't know how many, and I don't know how wide, but I don't believe that we'll be having this conversation a year from now, and Jason Collins will be the only one. That would be very surprising to me. Whether it's the next weeks or months, I don't know, but again, the fear of the unknown is being washed away now. And we know that people are going to embrace it. And now when he gets picked up by a team, that washes away some more fears. And when he steps onto a court and the fans and the opposing players and the opposing coaches and the referees all stand and applaud him, that will wash away more fear of the unknown. And 6 months from now, there's going to really be no reason other than personal angst for athletes to not come out.
I think it's just like when Don't Ask, Don't Tell went away. It was much ado about nothing. Nobody reacting. If that could work in the military, God knows it should be able to work in pro sports. But Cyd, I made a bet with a friend yesterday, and I said, if Collins gets picked up here as a free agent, he will get the loudest applause when he's in visiting arenas of anybody on his team. And my buddy wasn't so sure. You think I'm going to make money on this bet here? Because I think if he's picked up, make it up by the Celtics. If he comes to New York, he might be the only Celtic who gets cheered when he walks onto the floor at MSG.
You might as well have him take you out to dinner now, because it's just, people get it. Whether it doesn't matter how you feel about same-sex marriage or gays and the Boy Scouts, all these other issues. All we're talking about is the right and the ability for someone to play the sport they love and do their job. And Americans and Canadians all believe, the vast majority believe, that he and me and everybody else just deserves to play their sport and do their job. And I think people get the importance of him walking out onto that court. I want to be there that first night he walks onto a court, because I think it will be overwhelming.
All right, let's bring the table in on this. And Basil, let's say he gets picked up. Do you think, I maintain if he's on another team, he comes, let's say, to the Garden, he's going to get a standing O if he's on the other team even.
Oh, sure. In sort of watching the coverage after the announcement, I don't know about in his specific case, but I have to think that if there are members of any of these teams that are gay, their teammates probably know. To some extent, or have a feeling.
A lot of guys said they had no idea.
Yeah, I don't know about in this particular case, but I have to think that for the number of members of these teams in across sports that are gay, I would have to think that a lot of their teammates probably know or have an idea. And I think the mood of the country right now, it's more accepted. The exception to the good news and the accolades was one reporter actually from ESPN who made some really horrible statements about it.
He made a point that his faith looked upon it as a sin. And by the way, then he went into the point that he thought adultery was a sin, that he thought all these premarital sex was a sin. And I said, basically, you're going to look around the locker room, and basically, you're going to avoid everybody here. You won't have anyone to talk to if you're going to hold that standard. But the fact of the matter is, Andrew, in that locker room, forget about in the stands, in that locker room, do you think it's more of a generational issue now? Or do you think it's, it's still a different culture because it's a locker room and it's not an office?
I mean, there are so many different variables that factor into this. There's proximity to somebody in your life. If you have a relative or a friend who's gay, that probably changes your perspective. If you're very religious, if you're politically conservative, that may change your perspective on this. There may be any number of factors that play into it. But I think it's important that everybody's voice be heard. And this Chris Broussard guy who has his voice can't just be drowned out in all of this. I think it has to be heard so that it can be aired publicly and people can come out on the side that they want.
The one distinction, though, is we've noticed, Dom, employers, whether it's the ESPNs, whether it's the pro team where the player said that, whoever it is, nobody wants to be associated with anybody who's got even a whiff of intolerance because of the blowback to that organization, too. And I think that speaks volume, about where we are right now. It's amazing how much it's changed. I can just think if even 5 years ago this happened, it'd be okay, I think, in some locker rooms to call them whatever they would. I don't think it would fly now.
No, it won't fly now.
Even without the cameras around.
It won't fly now, even when the cameras are not around. If a player says anything negative, first of all, I'm sure the PR staffs have already alerted all the players. Stay away from Twitter. Don't dare say anything negative. The train has left the station. The year is, 2013 going 2014. People want freedom to do whatever they want to do with their lives, and it's the bottom line.
It's amazing how fast the issues move, though, don't you think?
It is amazing. But I'll tell you this, he better not have 5 bad games in a row where he costs the team something, because there'll be some stupid fan that'll start to yell something.
Yeah, that's true. And I wonder what would happen in that section.
Well, I think about what happened with Kobe Bryant. Didn't he make a statement sort of in a huddle, or as he was going to the huddle during a game towards a player or a ref or something, and that was a big issue. Look what happened to Roland Martin in his tweet. I mean, this is not the environment.
But then look, Kobe was one of the first ones before it was popular to come out right away and congratulate him on the courage and everything else that he did. I just think in my lifetime it's the fastest velocity on a social issue I've ever seen. Gay marriage, whether it's the military, whether it's... All right, we take a quick break. When we come back, though, we're going to have Dominic's conversation with the man who wants to become mayor, certainly the Republicans' best shot right now in New York, Joe Lhota. Some call him Giuliani the sequel, and as we said, he says that's just fine by him. We'll also have his surprising opinions when it comes to Bloomberg's nanny state initiatives and also stop and frisk.